Welcome to Off Topic but On Point. I'm Adette De Beer, and here we embrace the unscripted, the unconventional, and dare I say it, the unexpected. Because sometimes the best breakthroughs happen when you go off topic. Each episode, we dive into business, leadership, and life, exploring the moments that challenge us, shape us, and push us forward. So, whether we're tackling entrepreneurship, collaboration, mindset, or even navigating resistance, one thing's for sure, we'll always bring it back to what matters. So, get ready for candid perspectives, thoughtful insights that will keep you engaged, inspired, and maybe a little bit uncomfortable in the best possible way. As usual, I have with me my beautiful friends, Dr. Janine de Cabo, also known as the Intentionalist, and Pastor Christo Pretorius, the Expander. Let's go.
Good day, and once again, welcome to another episode of Off Topic and On Point. Before we get started today, I would like to take this opportunity to just give a shout out to my two incredible friends that are also my co-host of this incredible podcast. And I just want to say that I appreciate you. I never want to take you for granted. And thank you for bringing me along this journey. I just realized more and more that there's probably not a week that goes by that either with a client or in conversation or in training or development that I do not use the phrase, we might be off topic, but we're on point. And the people are blown away by that phrase and they're like, that's the best thing I've ever heard. And I just want to, first of all, just take the moment just to recognize that and just say thank you. I really appreciate both of you, and I'm so looking forward to another great episode and another great conversation with two of the people in the world that I would do this every day of the week. So if you're watching, just give my co-host and my dear friends a nice warm hand of appreciation, because I certainly appreciate both of you. Now, to some extent, I do feel like the newbie to a lot of our conversations, since 20 odd years of my life I spent in ministry, and the last couple of years obviously delved into more business aspect and assisting ministries more than working full-time in one ministry. And so one thing that has been very prominent over the last 2 years is that in my years in ministry, the word legacy in that environment was always connected to we building something for the future. It's something we all look forward to. It's something that we all hone around, and we work towards this goal to create a legacy, something that we leave behind. And even the definition between the difference between inheritance and legacy, inheritance is what you leave behind, but legacy is who you leave behind. But in the last couple of years working with corporate clients, the word legacy has a total different meaning. And not just a different meaning, but to some extent, a negative connotation. Where legacy in the corporate setting, especially, where I've worked the last couple of years, legacy is something that's inherent. It's maybe connected to a negative system, debt, people behavior, etc., etc. So first of all, to maybe just set the foundation and the way forward for this, have you find it similar that legacy can mean two different things in the church segment and then in business?
Absolutely, Pastor C. I think people there's two words for me that people do that with. It's legacy and identity. It's really whatever that person's definition of that word is and the experience behind them that determines what legacy means for them. And most of the time it had to do with profit and income, which I also don't agree with, but yes.
Thank you.
I think from my perspective, when we are in corporate and we're talking about legacy, it's normally about an issue, and it's normally something that someone did 30 years ago, and we are now dealing with legacy issues, legacy systems, legacy people, legacy policies. In corporate, it isn't
Positive.
a positive thing. to talk about legacy means that someone stuffed up and we are now trying to fix
Absolutely.
it.
I remember the first time I heard that word in the corporate space with a client, I was like, this is my game. I mean, I've got 20 years of experience, and, we were all about legacy. And then I realized, no, this is something that they don't want to duplicate and systemize. And so, years leading into today's discussion, I then asked the question that if this is a legacy problem, then what are the reasons that we've permitted this behavior? And when I've asked this for a multiple clients, and the reaction was the same. It's like they were almost stunned that somebody confronted them with the truth, and then you see the realization of, we need to answer this question. And so my question to the both of you is that, where have you seen within your space of working with clients, what are the reasons that, or how does these bad behaviors, these legacy issues, how do they start? Who permits them? And is it even possible to change that? Now maybe I've asked all of my questions in the outset. Maybe just let's speak about, the first aspect, like in your experience, have you also seen these type of, legacy bad inherited behaviors that has been allowed? And how do you think that starts?
It starts exactly like that, Pastor C. It is allowed. It starts with a leader or a person or a someone who wants to be nice, who doesn't want to offend someone, who's dealing with someone who's perhaps going through something difficult, and other people have seen it. So what you allow is what becomes normal. One of the things that often come up in my work is, have you clarified this? You guys know my thing is clarity, accountability, consistency. That's the foundations of life. Anywhere you go. Everyone wants an awesome culture. No one wants to do the work of building the awesome culture. And building the awesome culture means we sit down around the table and we talk about, who are we? What is our purpose? What is our character? And what are our values? And how do we display those values? To say integrity is a value is simply not enough. It's a billboard that you pop on your wall and people think that's cute, but nobody actually knows what it means. Then we don't celebrate them because the KPIs mean something completely different. And before you know it, you are creating or allowing a shadow culture purely by not saying what it is we want. Not telling people what you need and want and means that they can make up their own story. And then they do. So it's not so much that who allowed it. It's more, most likely someone was being human in a moment. And it's quite often that they don't want to be confrontational. People don't like being told what to do, so they don't know how to facilitate it. I had someone said to me yesterday, I had a client say to me, us South Africans, these culture things, when you put people around the table, they say yes, and then they walk away and they do their own thing. I said, yes, because you need to bring people on the journey. That is not just a South African thing. That is a global thing. We have to sit down and talk about what this really means, and you have to be clear about what is negotiable. What are we building together? Purpose is generally not negotiable. How we deliver on the purpose may be slightly negotiable. And then how do we display it together? And we all have to agree on those things. And I'm not by any means suggesting that a business becomes a democracy, but certainly from your leadership perspective, the people who need to drive and enforce and embed the behaviors and the values in your organization need to all be on the same page. And then you need to be okay with people walking away because this is not for them. I think that's the best thing you could do for yourself. And it's such a powerful moment when people get to say, you know what? I actually don't think this is for me. I think I'm going to move on. What freedom. That's amazing. Give them a high five, wish them well, send them on their way, bring someone who wants to build the way that you see the world. Off topic, on point.
Awesome. I thank you for setting that foundation. I've got about seven follow-up questions on that, but I'll hold on because I want to get Dr. Neen's perspective on this as well.
I think what you allow or what you don't address, that's exactly what you accept. And I loved how Odette said it now. It's as simple as someone just had a human moment, or they was just human in a moment and they didn't address something. And I'll tell you this story that until today still stuns me. And I remember I barely started out with business and I asked a very seasoned, I almost said salted, but seasoned business person, like, what is your I realized at that time that I had somebody in my business with long fingers, and they were just taking small stuff, and it wasn't physical stuff. It was like software and things like that, and it was such a hard thing for me to deal with. Like, I couldn't actually fathom it. And I spoke to this person. I'm like, how do you deal with this? And they said to me, oh, yes, they've got the same person or somebody like that, but they know exactly how much they steal. So they just work it into whatever they just know they work it into a loss every month. And I remember I was like, I made a mental note to say, like, this is not the right person to come to if something in your business is not working. And I was just like, I was stunned, honestly. And I made a mental note that there's certain things in your business, the same as with people. You know that I always say that brand is personality. The brand of your company or the reputation is the personality. The personality comes back to the person or the business owner. That business owner is injecting his personality, his values, his culture into the business, and he's just accepting these things, and that just the one spills over to the other. And that's why I said what Odette said was just so beautiful, because someone just had a human moment. He just had a human moment, and for him, that's just how he never addressed it. Therefore, it became part of the accepted behavior within the business. But just look how wrong it is. Now, if I tell you guys, no, somebody's stealing, I know exactly how much. It's fine. It's every month. I'm like, no, doesn't work like that. So what you don't address, you accept, and that forms part of your culture. And yeah, that behavior is what you permit, and that becomes legacy.
Sure. Yeah, that is a story that that will shock me as well for the rest of my for the rest of my days. You know, on both of your points, then still staying with like, how does this happen? Playing on, people, somebody had a human moment. Is it then possible that at once that behavior was fine and validated, but we never adapted or adjusted as we grow, realizing that we have to constantly, reestablish what the behavior is. And I'm thinking of, maybe that's the phase I'm in my life with Christu, our son. He's still he's 2 years old, turning three in a month or so. So there's certain things that you allow because, he, like, for instance, he would a year ago smack me in my face accidentally. It wasn't on purpose. He's just playing with his hands. He's trying to, even this morning at creche, when I dropped him off, one of the kids in his class that's a year younger than him, I just went high five, and this kid just went like, high fiving me. And I'm thinking, he's not high fiving per se, he's maybe just smacking. Where the other kids that's older is like, they come, boom, high five, they walk away. Now, that is some behavior that I will allow with a 2-year-old, but when he's 17, he's not going to come and smack me in my face per se without consequences. However, if we don't then grow with our company and the behaviors that should be allowed and should be tolerated, is that maybe a possible start? Because what you now said, Dr. Janine, is that maybe it's possible that you know people didn't address the stealing in the beginning, because like when it becomes serious, we'll address it. It's only 500 rand, 1,000 a month. We can work it into our our expenses, but when it becomes serious, when it's like they take a car or they take clients or the house, we'll address it. And then we never get there because we become so accustomed to that. And it's almost like we're searing our conscience, or we become, what's the right word, oblivious to intentional misbehavior of those individuals.
I do think so. And I think it's like my first paycheck. When I got my first salary, I mean, like, man, it was a lot of money. It felt like it. 3 months later, I was like, how am I going to put petrol in my car? And then you get an increase, and then you're like, whoa, this is a big increase. And then 3 months later, you're like, oh man, how did I even do this? It's the same with that behavior. Let's use the long fingers and the stealing as an example. First month is 100 Rand. And then they're like, whoa, that's a lot. Next month, it's like, let's just make it 120. The petrol prices have gone up last night, so I need a little bit of extra. So whichever behavior you allow is going to grow, and whichever behavior you make part of your legacy and your culture is what you're going to see over and over and over. And that's why it always comes down to me is whatever you allow. Now, for me, where the thing comes in is we are busy. We have got, especially, well, I can speak for myself or for the three of us. We are busy. We've got structures. We have stuff that we need to do. So we don't always necessarily see all the angles and see all the stuff very deeply that goes on. That just doesn't mean we accept it. So that's also, I just want to make that clarification. Just because stuff happens, it's not always that we're not addressing it because we maybe just didn't see it. So I think that's the other thing. You need people to help around you to see your blind spots, because we are structured people. We're on a mission. It's like I see it as a horse that's busy racing. Hulle het hierdie oogklappe aan. They've got these things on the side of their head that they're just going forward. So in the process of you getting to your goal, you do need people that's going to help you to see your blind spots for the behaviors that you maybe not see, in order not to turn off your legacy.
Wow. Now that is a can of worms we can open there, being focused on a mission and not seeing these blind spots. I wanna pose the question: is that for us being on a journey and on purpose, and running this race, is it possible that we get so focused on the destination then and where we're going that we're missing the actual journey and the actual part of what makes that journey? Before I maybe delve deeper into that, I want to hear Odette's just response to the initial posing of, we need to adapt our behavior as we grow within an organization.
Vandag se guns is môre se standaard.
Yes. No, I
I've heard
haven't.
that before. Today's favor is
No, I
tomorrow's
haven't. Well, I've just heard
standard.
it now.
Like, are you serious? It's like an
Doodle, doodle.
Afrikaans thing. But what you allow, we teach people how to treat us, right? That's the same when you're out with your friends and when you're in the office. We are constantly training people how to treat us. And the same is true for your teams. Now, exactly to your point, what you allow a 2-year-old to do is very different to what you allow a 20-year-old to do, because there is context to everything we do. The 2-year-old playing and figuring out hand-eye coordination is cute and it's funny. A 20-year-old, not so much funny, not so much a joke. This is fighting talk. So we have to take the context into consideration. And I want to, perhaps this situation that Dr. J mentioned about the long finger thing, I think in business, we have to have non-negotiables. Like, if you stand for nothing, you will fall for everything. And like 2 Rand, 20 Rand, I'm a principles person, unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know, take it as you wish. But the principle is you've stolen from me, or the principle is you've lied to me. Those things for me are like non-negotiable. Don't lie to me. Don't steal from me. Like, Tell me the truth. We can work anything out. There are very, very, very few things in life that you cannot sort out, fix, talk about, whatever. Very few. And I can't even think of anything right now. But like if you have stolen from me, instead of saying, geez, I'm stuck. Like, I need an extra $20, petrol's gone up, kids are sick, extra medicine. Like you, like me, we're all human, right? I believe that I actually said it earlier today, all issues in life stem from miscommunication or lack of communication. But there is an issue here. We didn't say it. Say it clearly, not assume that they know what we said. So if you don't have those non-negotiables in your business, and if you haven't told people that it's a non-negotiable, it's one thing to have a non-negotiable. It's a different story altogether to have the non-negotiable and have everyone on the same page about being the non-negotiable. Perhaps you didn't say it because you didn't think it was necessary. Sorry, that's on you. That everything rises and falls on leadership, and this is a hard conversation. That's on you. They're stealing from you. That's on you. You're an idiot. You're a poor leader. You are doing them an injustice, and you're doing your business an injustice. And that is actually also not acceptable. That's a non-negotiable. As a leader, you stand up. You have the tough conversations. We clarify things that need to be clarified. We don't allow people to become a worse version of themselves. What that person has done is he's allowed moral decay to happen right in front of him. He's allowed it. Look, you will be judged by what you do and by what you don't do. You had an opportunity to rectify that. Yes, there are some things in life that's not yours to rectify, but you can see this is not good because it's a snow fade, Pastor C, and I'm sorry, this is like, oh man, this is perhaps very off topic. But moral decay, if we are allowing moral decay, what does that say about you? You had an opportunity to help someone, to fix something, to prevent their lives from turning into an absolute mess. You watched the train wreck. You could have done something about it, but instead you watched the train wreck. You will be held accountable for that because you weren't blind to it. You knew it was going on. So that $5 thing they stole, that tiny little, oh, I stole your license, that becomes theft. That becomes huge fraud, and then they sit in jail and commit suicide. You know where it started? You sit there and you go, oh yeah, I knew that guy was trouble. I actually no. We all make mistakes, and you had an opportunity to help them right, and I don't think that's acceptable. Ooh, sorry.
You see, I mean, and I started this podcast by just thanking both of you for being in my life, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I'm enjoying every moment because Dad's gonna tell me the truth that I need to hear. She's gonna keep me on the straight and narrow, and Dr. Yanine's gonna come with the angle that I didn't see, and she's gonna open up those blind spots, exactly, things that I've maybe not been aware of. There's just so much I wanna tap into on that. I think it's Dr. Rob Thompson that says, never complain about things that you allow in your life. Never complain about things that you allow in your life. I'm saying that because to an extent, these behaviors, and I mean, not just saying that it's just in corporates and clients and teams that I'm working with. I mean, in my own life, there's certain things that we allow. My question is, what's the reason for allowing it? And I do think that, especially for me, that statement that you made, Odette, that today's favor becomes tomorrow's standard, like hits it on the head, is that I did a favor for somebody today, and now it becomes a standard, and I'm responsible to rectify, to say, listen, that was a favor, but this is the way that we do certain things. There's the thing that if you do it for me, you will do it to me. So if I allow you to steal for me, then you're gonna one day steal from me. Many years ago, I tried to watch this series on Netflix. I think it's the Ozark, and didn't really, I didn't like it, and I just don't remember how many episodes I watched. Then maybe beginning of the year, I saw a clip from Alex Hormozy quoting a scene from that movie, from that series. And I'm like, I mean, I've never heard that. And the scene is this: is that these guys are working for a mob boss, and don't know if you guys have watched the series, but so this guy works for a mob boss, and the mob boss finds out that these guys are stealing money from his laundering money business. And he asked him this question, as he says that my dad had a shop, and the lady that was working behind the till, my dad saw that one day she took $5 from the till. What should my dad do? And so there's three people in the room. So the one guy's like, man, it's $5. Like, you know, just let it go. The other guy said, you know what? The lady is maybe needing food for the house, and expenses, and whatever the case might be. You know, just realize that, that's where she's at, and just oversee it. And he asked this other guy, the main character in the story, and this guy's like, he says, fire her. And the mob boss is like looking surprised. He says, why should I fire her? He says, it's not the first time she stole from you. It's the first time she got caught. Yes, and when he said that, it was like a ton of bricks that just hit me, to realize that behavior that we allow, we've now been made aware of it. It's not the first time that they've shouted at that employee. It's not the first time the manager threw his team under the bus. It's simply the first time that they got caught or it was revealed. But it's a behavior that has been consistently permitted. And it just simply speaks to the essence then of the importance of us aligning or realigning these things consistently. And so maybe to take us into a different direction, but still staying on point, Dr. Janine, you mentioned about the importance of leaders having people in our lives that can help us with those blind spots. What would you say what would be some of the steps that we can take, and I want to frame it this way, that we can employ people to our life to help us with the blind spots? And the reason I say employ people, because what we pay gets attention. What we pay, we pay attention to. So if I know I'm paying somebody to help me with this, when they give me the advice, I'm going to take it because there's value to it. What would you say is a couple of steps for us to employ that person to help us with blind spots?
I think it's John Maxwell who taught me this, but the principle is that you have to have people that's in a higher level than you that can pull you up. You have to have people at the same level as you. We call them peers, that you can speak about things. And then you have to have people underneath you that you can pull up. And I think that principle for me will always reign true, because that means above me, and at the same level, I have, because I also, I love the principle is you have to surround yourself with the right people of where you want to be in 5 years from now, basically. So I believe that I've already set the precedent that the quality of people that surrounds me is good quality people, and I can trust them to help me to see those blind spots. It's not something I've been working on just since yesterday. I made a decision, I need good people around me. I mean, people laughed at me when I said to them, what is your goal for this year? And I said, I'm surrounding myself with intelligent people. No, it started there. So what's your goal? No, I'm surrounding myself with wealthy people. Why was I doing that? Because I was creating an environment for years that I'm surrounded with people that can help me to see blind spots. And that helped me. Dr. Vivian Rogers has such a powerful saying. Bad attitude is signs of deep-seated character flaws. A bad attitude is signs of deep-seated character flaws. And then what happened is, if you surround yourself with these kind of people, then you spot the blind spots earlier. You spot, and other people around you help you to spot the bad behavior much quicker than somebody who's unaware of the kind of people that is surrounding them, or people that are unintentional about the people that they let into their space. We spoke a little bit earlier, it comes down to boundaries as well. What are the boundaries that you set? Odette, you used it's values, it's boundaries. It's like, what do you say no to? You can only say no to certain things if you've had a different experience. So you're like, no, that's not for me. No, that's not the principles that I live with. So for me, how do you get that? It doesn't happen overnight, because relationship doesn't happen overnight. But you as a person, you need to set boundaries. You need to decide, what do I allow, what don't I allow? And you need to make sure that it's going to take time for you to build those people around you. But I do kind of see it as a hedge of protection that you build around you. I mean, even Jesus, we spoke about him and his relationship, the 1, the 3, the 12, and it carries on like that. But who's those people around you that can help you to really see the blind spots? And the interesting thing about life is you're going to think that you have the right people around you, and then a bad behavior or a deep-seated character flaw is going to be revealed, and then you might have to change some people around. And I think that's the sad thing, and for people like us that love people, that's the thing that hurts. But something that I always look at is that how people speak about others in front of you is how they will speak about you in front of others. So that's normally a very good indication to see how you can choose the people that's going to help you to find your blind spots.
Yeah, that is such a powerful statement that you dropped that dropped right at the end. What I'm hearing is, all right, so the process to employ people to help you in my blind spot is have people that are higher than you. So these people are going to pull you up, and for my understanding, it's like they're gonna increase my awareness of things and situation because they've been where I want to go.
Yeah,
Then I
in
need to have
in
peer,
your words, your capacity.
okay,
Mm.
peer level people. It's almost like a sounding board. It's like they keep you on track, and you're doing maybe something similar in their life, so it's easy to be aware of it because it's also advice that you are giving. And then having people that's below you that you are pulling up. What I'm taking from that is that these people will empower my strengths, because if I'm not strong enough to pull them up, I'm going to realize, oh shucks, that's the area where I'm lacking, but that's also the area that they need me in. So I appreciate the process there. Odette, I want to ask you. You mentioned earlier that we need to build a strong team culture, and so as the leader setting out that culture, what would you say is the process on how do you build a strong team culture? I read a book maybe a year, 2 years ago, The Motive by, I think it's Patrick Leoncini, sorry if I butcher his surname, but The Motive. And the first principle that he shares there is the application of CEOs in high corporates is the importance of it's their responsibility to develop the team, and they applicate that to like HR. And so what would you say is the process to build a team culture? And then who's responsible? Who is really responsible? And give me the unfiltered version of who is responsible to build team culture.
I think it depends on who we're talking to. If you are talking to an entrepreneur who's a solo business owner, you are the team, you are the culture, you are the CEO, you are the marketer, you are the everything, right? So we need to clarify who sits where. When you start bringing people in, they generally bring people in that they trust. And in that context, you are 100% responsible for what's happening, for what you allow, and for how it plays out, because you'll bring your most trusted confidant along, and they will do things, and because they're friends, you'll let it slide. That's slightly problematic. When you become a little bit bigger as the CEO of an organization, let's say a small business, 50 team members, your job is to clarify the purpose and the character behavior requirements. So what is our purpose? What is our vision? What is our mission? What are our values, and what behavior displays those values? But part of understanding what behaviors displays those values is also what happens to that value under pressure. I think the downfall of every organization is we have values, integrity on the wall. Fantastic. It's beautiful. We live in integrity. We never clarify what it means, because what integrity means for me is very different to what it means for you, because we don't read the same dictionary and we assume people know things. So assuming, we all know what happens when we assume stuff. So we don't clarify what it looks like in a good perspective. Then we are so lazy, because it takes work and it takes us talking to people and having been confronted with the fact that perhaps they don't agree with me. This is why I don't have the conversation. But the flip side of what does integrity look like when it's done well is, what does integrity look like under pressure? When the deadlines are due, when the cash flow is low, when we haven't delivered to the customer, there's no money in the bank and we need to do this thing. What does integrity look like then? If we have not clarified those things, it actually doesn't matter how big your business is then. You will fail, because you will create a shadow culture and you will deal with what comes behind that. That's the reality. Because your culture isn't created when everything's going well. That's not when your culture is created. Your culture is created when you're under pressure. What happens when you squeeze an olive? You get olive oil. What happens when you squeeze a baby? You don't get baby oil, you get hugs. But we need to clarify, what do we look like under pressure? Like, if we don't want to take the time to do that, we actually shouldn't have the business, and we should just retire and go work at, I don't know, somewhere else. Because that's the role that the leader plays. And then when it comes to much larger organizations, if we're talking about massive corporates and we're talking about millions and billions, the board ultimately sets the vision and the purpose of the organization. They then tell the CEO, this is what you must deliver. This is our 10-year mission. The CEO then has to go, okay, the board's already set these things. We already know who this organization is. My job is to empower my team, and my team's job is to empower their team. So it starts with the board clarifying, who are we? What do we stand for? What are our values? How do we make money? Are we okay with shady business? Are we okay with shady suppliers? If those things are okay, cool. If they're not, okay, what does that mean? What is the big principle behind it? Then those principles have to be embedded in the person that you employ as the CEO. And the CEO needs to make sure that he clearly communicates and empowers his leadership team in what is it under pressure, what is it when it's looking good, what are we okay with, what are we not okay with, what are the non-negotiables, and he needs to hold his team accountable to roll it down, filter it down into their teams. There is a role for HR to play in this, because HR does team training, they handle the schedules, so they handle the how, but the leadership team is responsible for the what. What is the principle? How we roll out the principle is where HR plays a role, and they should be saying, well, actually this how isn't appropriate for this principle. We should do something else. But it's a collective responsibility. There isn't an abdication that can take place when it comes to culture and values and behaviors. Does that answer your question? I feel like, yeah.
I'm going to give over to Dr. Janine if she wants to say something there. Absolutely, it does. It also highlights maybe the point of, how do I put my people under pressure on purpose? If you say, and if that's true, which I believe, I definitely think it's a very good definition, that culture is created under pressure, not in the fluffy, the airy-fairy, the nice things. Yes, that's where we maybe set, those parameters in place, but it's really going to be tested under pressure. So then my question then becomes, like, what do I do to put my people under pressure on purpose? But before I go there, like I said, I want to maybe, Dr. Janine, you want to jump in there. It seems like you have some truth to add to this.
Odette just made me ask my team that question. is that culture is shaped under pressure. And my question to them was, I want to open conversation on this because for we've been under a lot of pressure since last year, but also pressure in a way that we've never faced in the company. So this must have shaped a different kind of something within the company, and it's really deepened a whole lot of things. So I'm just taking your question, Odette, and I'm going to apply it, because I think also from my perspective, again, going back on that previous thing, the blind spots, is that even in this time, let me take you back to COVID. In COVID, I always joke with this, but I don't think it was really that far off, apparently, because the more I joke about it, the more people either get offended or they like, oh, that was me too. But I have a PPE company, and I always joke and I said in COVID, the pastors were selling masks. And, and what I said to my team at that time is like, can I just ask you a big thing? Is like, don't, and I mean, it seemed like the obvious thing. Like, I didn't even have to say it, but I said to them, don't take any bribes. And everybody was like, what are you saying? And like, why would you even say that? And I promise you, they came back day after day after day saying that you will not, then it became a joke. It's like, you will not believe what that, like, I can have a new car by tomorrow if I get this container of masks. And we went on like that. And I'm so glad the Holy Spirit just whispered that thing. And I had the guts at that time, because I love the people that I work with, that I just voiced that out loud, because that's not something I would say, because that person can turn around and be like, are you kidding me? Of course I'm not going to take a bribe. You know me. But I did address that thing at that time, and it became a joke in the office. Oh, I could actually have a new car tomorrow just because of this order and whatever. The pastors went back to pastoring the church. The people that all were selling masks went back to doing that, and some of the others are in jail because of all these silly things, And I just made the thing there. Our culture was shaped in that moment to say that that's not who we are. You cannot bribe me. You cannot get me onto a site. You cannot get me a job by offering me something else along the side. Our culture was shaped. We went through a very different thing in the past, I would say 8 months. And what I want to figure out is what was shaped in that time, because that is building, going back to what Pastor C was saying, that comes down to legacy. In this company, we don't do that. In this company, we don't do that. And Odette, I know you don't always realize how clever you are, but I don't think you realize what a bomb that also just was there. Is if companies can just go back and check the really hard times and just ask themselves what came out of this for us as a team, they would start to get closer to legacy.
Dr. J, it requires time. You've made the decision to go back to your team and say, hey, can we sit down and talk about that? That means you value their opinion. That means you create a space for honest conversations that are not being judged by anything or anyone. It's just, hey guys, I just want to know, where are we? The reality is most organizational leaders are so insecure that they cannot have opposing views in the room. They cannot afford to have a conversation with their team that's open and honest without judgment. Most leaders are not, I'm sorry to say, they are not okay with themselves. And therefore, they cannot be okay with someone sitting around them who's working for them saying, maybe this isn't the right thing. Maybe we need to look at it differently. Until we become secure in ourselves, it comes down to identity. Until you know who you are, you can't navigate pressure. You can't lead a team properly. Yes, there are leaders out there that don't know who they are and they are leading teams. Yes, absolutely. There's millions of them, unfortunately. But those leaders won't sit down and honestly have a conversation and listen. Because it's one thing to say, hey guys, tell me what's happening. Let's talk about what happened. It's a different thing to say, let's talk about what happened. What's the truth? And where do we go from here? How does this change or shape or inform how we handle situations? Those things are not mutually exclusive, and they don't happen by chance. It means you have to invest time. That means the time that you're sitting in that meeting, you're not selling another container of PPE stuff. It means you're not sitting with the client. It means that you're investing in your team because you care about them. I'm sorry to say, I don't believe that's always the case.
We have to create psychological safe environments for people to speak, like you said, without being judged. Otherwise, you're never going to get to the bottom of things. It's always going to be very, very superficial.
So pressure is a privilege because it's in those pressure moments that you grow. And maybe like I had to reframe my mind on what legacy really means, and obviously in different contexts, it's to also make peace with pressure and to realize that it's a privilege and it's something I should look forward to because it's going to reveal certain things, within my life. Odette, just quickly give me the definition of what is shadow culture. You mentioned that earlier, and then we'll wrap it up.
The shadow culture is what happens when you're not looking. When you've said integrity is our value, but the truth is we hide stuff and we have three different conversations. There's the one that's happening in the meeting, there's the one that's happening on Teams and on emails, and then there's the one that's happening downstairs in the parking lot where no one's listening and I'm telling you what I really think about my boss. That's the shadow culture. And shadow cultures exist everywhere because we allow them, because we don't, to Dr. J's point, I hate using that word psychological safety because it's become a buzzword, but we don't create safety for people to be honest. We don't create an environment where people can highlight what's not working in a safe way. And I also think we don't train people how to have this conversation because it's very easy for the critic to come in and then criticize everything and derail what should be a productive conversation to highlight what is. And in today's culture, we are so precious about, my feelings, that people can't tell me the truth because my marshmallow feelings are not going to survive. I'm such a snowflake. I'm not going to survive you telling me the truth. So when people talk about psychological safety, I'm sorry. Yes, it is 100% necessary. The people who generally, Dr. J, not you, but the people who generally talk about it, they don't have the guts to have an honest conversation because it goes both ways. So if we didn't clarify what our values are, what our culture looks like under pressure, we have a shadow culture. Even when we do clarify what our culture looks like, we can still have a shadow culture because we allow stuff. It's the things we allow, the things we turn a blind eye to knowingly. It's the blind spots. It's all of those things that emerge. By the time we see it, we think, ugh, the ship's too big to change, so we leave it. There's the real culture and there's the shadow culture.
And is it possible that the shadow culture can overpower the real culture or the culture that we put on the board that we want to follow? Because
More
because I've
often it
always been
does.
of the inclination that there's a story in the Bible where the owner of the vineyard, the father, he asks his two sons, will you work in my vineyard? And the one son says, yes, I will. And he walks away and he doesn't. And the second son says, no, I won't. And he walks away and he's become sorrowful and he goes and he works in his father's vineyard. And I think the Bible asks, at the end, which one of the two sons was justified, and I'm like, I would rather want to be the person, or I would rather want people in my life that can tell me to my face, no, and then leave and realize, shucks, let me rectify, I've been made aware, whatever the case might be, then being surrounded or being the person that says yes, 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 but in your heart, you're not doing it. Because that is not an accurate snapshot of the strength of your team. The lip service, and I mean, even Jesus said this, like with your lips, you praise me and you worship me, but your hearts are far from me. And I think in today's society, because a lot of things are so much about what we see and what we project, and it's not what's really in the heart of people. And I want to build a team, and that's part of my mission, is to build teams that their hearts and their lips align, and that you as the leader can have a clear snapshot at exactly where your people are. Because when pressure comes, You think people are going to react or respond a certain way because that's what they've shown you. But deep down, the moral value that they carry is contradicting to that. And the pressure is going to crush them more than reveal the character that they really have.
Just for a second, when it comes to people and the values and all that stuff, and you start noticing something is off, or you start having the conversation, my invitation to any leader is to remember to be okay to walk away from this thing. We cannot be attached to the outcome. We are so invested in people that when they don't deliver what we expected, or they don't live up to what we wanted, or they say, hey, you know what, I'm actually not sure that this is for me, that somehow we either cut them off, we're like, you're dead to me, or we're like, okay, well, I was going to do this without you anyway. When I was growing up, there was a saying, a reason, season, or a lifetime. People are in your life for a reason, to teach you something, for a season to help you through something, or for a lifetime. We have to remember that not everyone is going everywhere you are going. And perhaps they are just there for that thing, to teach you a lesson, for you to learn how to be a better you. I don't know what it is. I'm not God. When I see him in heaven, I'm going to ask him all these questions, or I'm going to know. I don't know. But we have to be okay with people opting out. We have to be okay with people not having the ability that we thought they had. Because sometimes we look at people, and it's a risk that we all have in this room. We look at people and say, of course you are capable. Of course you have capacity. Because I look at you and I think, yes. You look at yourself and you think, no. And some people can't get past the no. Then we get disappointed in ourselves. We get frustrated. We have to be okay with walking away.
Any final thoughts for today, Dr. Nin, from your side?
The businessman said the other day, and I really appreciate it. And the way he said it, I'm like, I now actually think about that saying almost at least once a day. And basically it is that, like, to Odette's point about some people are only going to be there for a little bit, is that we just have to release them to go live their talents out somewhere else. And that was such a nice way. The way that he said that was such a nice way for me to understand the concept that Odette just said. Because I'm such a people person. I want to take everybody on the journey. I want everybody that starts with me, that finishes with me. Like, I love things like that. So it's hard for me if people leave, if they say no, and those kind of things. And no, I'm not at a place where I reflect everything back to what did I do wrong and those kind of things. I really love people and I want to take them all the way. So me is like, but I had to realize, I had to mature, I had to grow up, I had to grow in the fact that I need to release some people to live out their talent somewhere else. And there's business owners on this call and that's listening to this podcast today. And you're sitting with people within your company that you should have released a very long time ago to go live out their talent somewhere else. And that's the reason that you're still stuck today. That's the reason you go home at night and complain to your wife and complain to your husband about the state of your company, the state of your people, the state of that project, the state of that client. It's because you're working and you've got people around you that you have to release to go live out their talent somewhere else. And maybe this morning we are the people that's helping you to see those blind spots for you to make that next move in your business, that you can go from stuck to strategic.
So powerful. So powerful. Odette, anything else from you in closing?
Clarity, accountability, consistency. Be clear, hold people accountable, be consistent. If you can do those three things, you can navigate anything in life.
Absolutely. Thank you once again for today. I really enjoyed and appreciate the conversation as we delved into, what are the reasons that, you know, these bad behaviors are created, or how they're created, who feels them, and, you know, can it be changed? And there's some valuable insights that was given. I want to say the following, that not addressing bad behavior is acknowledging what you are willing to tolerate. Until next time, have a great day.